Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our operations management class. I hope everybody is well. Nice to see you back here after our class yesterday. Let's maybe recap what we've done yesterday, and then we're going to go into the next topic. Anybody recalls what we did last week? Sorry, not last week, yesterday. Anybody remembers what we did yesterday? Process strategy, yes. So we discussed processes, right? And we looked into, that's right, Xingyang. We talked about process types. And what was the other thing we looked at? So process types, and the other one was, anybody recalls? What did we call this? Process layouts, right? You remember? Sorry, I wrote it. You guys remember process layouts? Yes or no? Yes, so in process layouts, we actually looked into how processes on the shop floor are designed. We said there is the fixed position layout, we said there is a functional layout, we said there's a cell layout, and we said there is a product layout. And I hope you guys recall, we had this, let me share the screen so you can see. We had this graphical illustration and the process map. You remember which were the two operational performance dimensions that I would design for if I go up or down this line of fit, what we called? What kind of performance objective do I try to achieve if I go this way versus which type of performance objective do I focus on if I go the other way? Anybody recalls? What were the two conflicting operational performance objectives? You remember those ones? They're very important. They were cost versus, what was the other one? Anybody remembers? Cost versus, come on guys. Flexibility, right? So if I go into producing high volume, low variety, what kind of operational performance objective do I try to reach? Cost or flexibility? You remember? Is it cost or flexibility? If I go to continuous processes, if I go this direction to continuous processes, that's right, very good. I would go to cost, right? So this is cost. And then what is the other way if I go direction jobbing and project processes? Which performance objective do I try to reach there? What would it be if I go there? If I go the project side. So one was cost and the other one was? You guys remember? Flexibility, that's right. So we have those two sides, right? We can go into the cost side or the flexibility side, right? And we design the processes to achieve and reach those objectives. Now, how do I get to the cost side? Is through producing automation, repeated continuous process, relatively low intervention, right? And then remember we said as an example, we have energy generation or a gas pipeline, right? We have a defined start and a defined ending without any interruption. Project process, we said it's something one-off with a defined start and a defined ending. with many different skills. The process tasks are diverse and complex, and the project is intermittent, meaning it starts and stops all the time, right? So there are the differences. And before we went into this, right, we said we have two strategic types of processes, right? What were those ones? What did we call them? We discussed this at length yesterday. You guys remember those ones? Anybody recalls? That's right. Perfect. So it was the push versus the pull process, right? This is manufacturing strategy philosophy, right? So you always have to ask yourself what triggers the process, right? In a pull environment, one who triggers the process is the order, right? The real customer order. And then in a push environment, the one that triggers the process, starts the manufacturing, is based on the forecast, right? So these were the two different types of processes. And then if you think so, we divided the one, which one is more appropriate in which environment or scenario based on product types, right? And in terms of product types, I generally have functional products versus innovative products. So, and these are then the differences that I have. So if I go into, I don't know, 7-Eleven, and I see that products are made to stock, right, in a push environment, how I make, for example, a soft drink, a Diet Coke, or whatever it may be. And if I order a customized yard for, I don't know, luxury yard for 20 million, those ones are made to order, right? And made to order is pull, okay? And these are the differences. Now, if I'm thinking about made to order and made to stock, I always need to think about lead times, costs, and flexibility. You guys remember what lead time was? How did we define lead time? It's a very important concept in operation and supply chain management. Actually, it's a KPI that we use. What's lead time? What does it mean, lead time? Processing time, yes, but we said lead time is made up out of 3 different types of lead times. You guys remember? We had this equation and said total lead time equals yada yada plus yada yada. What were these 3? You guys remember? Or check your notes. That's very important to remember. Exactly. We had the purchasing lead time, the production lead time, and the delivery lead time, making up the total lead time. Now, if you think about these 3 stages in the supply chain, we can break up, right? So we do not have to solely produce everything in push. We do not have to produce everything solely in pull. And we said if we combine push with pull, we call this mass customization, right? Where we start producing push and then we go into pull. Now, a very common approach to maybe a less sophisticated level of mass customization is to do the purchasing part in and then the production plus the delivery in a process, right? And we would say this would be then an example of, for example, how a car could be manufactured, right? That would be an. Now, if you go to an even more extreme version, so we said we have made to order, made to stock. These were the two we discussed yesterday, right? So made to order, I only start producing once I receive the customer order. Made to stock, I produce ahead of time in a push environment based on my forecasting. Now, there's another extreme version, which is called resource to order. What could resource to order mean? What could that mean? Resource order. What do you guys think? What could resource to order mean? What do you think, guys? What could resource to order mean? So resource to order, depending on the resources to produce, yes. If you think about, we are building, as we said the example, we built for Jeff Bezos, the Amazon boss, 30 million yacht, right? Now, that shipbuilder in the Netherlands, do you think they would have material on stock in their garage to build this yacht? Probably not. That wouldn't make sense. The material only gets purchased once they get the order to build this yacht. So they purchase the resources only once they get the order. Or think about Boeing or Airbus. They only purchase the material once they get the order of building those planes. Or think about building a skyscraper. They only the material once they get the tender, right? So resource to order is then an extreme pull version, right? So where the whole supply chain is based on the pull, right? So all what we have here, what Xin Lam said, the production, the purchasing, and the delivery is all only good once the order comes in, okay? And this is more associated or common when we are in a project process environment, where we do something one-off that has never been done before, right? You see a complex, large-scale, high work content products, okay? So we need to decide whether we trade in lead time versus saving cost, okay? Now, all this we discussed in terms of process types, right? And then we said there are also different process layouts, okay? Layouts is the design of the process then itself, okay? These were the types where we're in the middle, the line of fit. The natural line of fit of processes in terms of volume, variety, characteristics, okay? And here are then the layouts, right? We have fixed position layout, function layout, cell layout, and product layout. Let me try my hand on drawing you a picture and see if you understand. Can you guys see this? Can you see this? It's not very sophisticated, so it's easy to see. Can you see? Can you just look at the picture of your Zoom? Okay. Now, think about here is the production, and here are the resources that are brought to the production side. Okay. What kind of process layout would this correspond to? What do you think? What kind of layout would this correspond to? Would it be a product layout, a cell layout, a functional layout, or a position layout? What do you guys think? Take a guess. Think about the example of building the skyscraper. What would this be? Would this be, does it look like an assembly line, like a product layout? Does it look like a cell layout, a functional layout, or a position layout? What do you guys think? Come on, help me out here. What do you think? Product layout? No. Product layout would be something like this. A product layout is where a product gets transformed, goes to the next production state, goes to the next production state, and goes out. This looks more like an assembly line, right? This is the opposite, right? So this would be like the site where you build the yard, the site where you build the skyscraper. So this would be a fixed position layout, okay? This would be, you remember when we discussed yesterday the different products of a bakery? A fixed position layout would be the place where you do the big wedding cake, right? The product layout would be the one where you think about the big machines that make the toast bread, okay? Let's look at a short video on what is a cell layout. A cell layout is particularly interesting from a lean perspective, and it involves a process. Okay, let's have a look here. Let me just skip the ad and let's have a look.
Cellular manufacturing is bring all the equipment, people, and processes into a single location designed to improve efficiency, quality, and throughput. A traditional machine shop would have departments: department of multi-spindle machines, a department of single spindle machines, of grinding and secondary equipment, depending on what that shop had invested in. And a material would come in and it would go to department A, and then it would sit around in a bucket until somebody came and brought it over to Department B. I'm Paul Lindsay. I'm Vice President of Sales. I've been in Amcraft since 1980. What makes cellular manufacturing different from the structure, which is more traditional, is you get a single piece flow that starts with the first machine and finishes with the last. Cellular manufacturing allows you to have product finished that day. There's minimal movement of product. There isn't any redundant activities in the cell that departmental processing allows for. You get that immediate feedback. You get process feedback. You get communication between employees who are working next to each other that you don't get across departments quite as easily as you do in a cell. So it is eliminating that waste time, that lost time, the handling of moving things around from location to location are the immediate benefits from a cell. The long-term benefits that kind of and that focus that comes from optimizing a singular product in a cell. By design, things are optimized and customized for the products that are going through that cell, which improves efficiency, improves cost, ultimately to quality levels you don't really see in a different environment.
You thought this was quite interesting in terms of showing what a cell layout is, right? So you two here in the middle try to combine and overcome the trade-off between the cost efficiency versus the flexibility that you go on one side, right? Trying to induce some level of flow, but trying to go into a principle or a concept which is called single piece flow, right? So single piece flow, as I mentioned, this video looks into having a batch size of 1, okay? If you recall the word batches, we talked about batch processes here. Let me just go back, sorry. There's a batch in the middle, right? And this overlaps with jobbing and with these mass processes, okay? Now, batch sizes can vary from 1 to indefinite, right? But generally, what we refer to if we talk about batches is a specific amount, a number of parts that are made in terms of being the same, right? Say, I produce 5 red cars. After making the 5 red cars that go through the process, I make 5 black cars, I make 5 green cars, I make cars, and so on, right? So the batch size may vary. Now, if I increase my batch size, which operational performance objective do I try to reach? Do I go up or down? Where do I go? Which direction here in this diagram? Do I go towards continuous processes or do I go towards the project processes? Does my volume increases and the variety increases, or does my volume decreases and my variety increases? What happens if I increase my batch size? What happens? Which objective am I looking at? Increase the batch size, I don't know, from 1 to 100. So 100 the same, I switch over and do the next 100. I switch over to the next 100. Do I go more towards continuous processes or more towards project processes? If I increase my batch size. What do you guys think? Hello? I go more towards continuous processes, right? And if I, project, Xinglam is going this way, right? So if I increase my batch size, I would increase my volume, but I decrease my variety. If I go the other way, that would mean I would decrease. No, it's fine, it's fine. I would decrease, at least you're trying, right? I decrease my batch size, I would go towards more higher variety and lower volume, right? Which is very important, okay? Sorry, it went back. So continuous processes goes into the cost direction, project goes more into the flexibility direction, okay? Right, and then we have here the functional and the cell layout in the middle, okay? And we said those ones, they mirror each other, right? The manufacturing process type and the potential layout type that I have, okay? Then we have the technologies here as well. Right, did you guys have time to work on the McDonald's case? First question, where is this McDonald's situated. Where is this? Check out the picture. Where's this McDonald's? You tell me, guys. I made this especially for you guys. Where is it? Covey Bay. That's right. Now, have you had time to work on the McDonald's case? So before we start, I wanted to show you a video about McDonald's and their, okay? And then we can discuss the questions that we have. Okay, let's go.
You can't expect your team to manage.
Okay, let's see. Skip the ad. And now let's go.
McDonald's recently launched a campaign called Our Food, Your Questions. It's aimed at demystifying one of the world's most recognizable and controversial brands. Our consumer reporter tapped into that transparency push for a peek behind the curtain. And new at 10 tonight, Chris Tamara opened Closed Door to discover that the heart of McDonald's machine is just down I-4.
Empty tables, dark registers, and an idle kitchen. Fast food slowed to a stop. A rare glimpse of new McDonald's the day before it opens.
This is the calm before the storm.
With golden arches emblazoned, this is the McDonald's we know. But we've ordered a special taste of McDonald's secret recipe behind the scenes. First,
In the candy shop,
Toronto Bakery.
we operate 24/7.
We don't know the Toronto name, but most of us know the Toronto flavor because it's essential to every McDonald's sandwich.
You know, it's got meat and condiments, but when you open that package, you see that bun. That's really the star of the show.
Flour trucks in by tanker
A lot of flour.
to this nondescript Orlando factory. It spends just 1 hour, 45 minutes mixing, transforming into a yeasty brew, a sticky dough, a powdery ball, eventually a McDonald's bun.
In a 24-hour day, we run 1.5 million buns.
Just as impressive as the scale
Essentially 1,000 pieces a minute.
is the precision here. Consider those sesame seeds. Toronto's 70 bakers are confident each Big Mac bun contains 360 of them.
If you count that bun, I guarantee you, you'd be plus or minus a seed. Yeah, I'm sticking to that.
Toronto bakes around the clock. Its mechanized kitchen includes the world's most hypnotic rotating style.
That's variable speed cooler.
After the buns complete that 3-story cooling circuit, a high-speed camera inspects each bun
It looks at color. It looks at seed coverage. It looks at diameter. It looks at height.
and ejects the second-rate ones. Next, it's off to packaging. And finally, the freezer.
Crazy.
I was stunned to discover these piping hot McDonald's buns are immediately frozen.
Thought, and it's like it's the day it was baked.
We follow buns. Learned Toronto Bakery is literally attached
Right on left arm.
to a refrigerated warehouse.
It's 150,000 square foot.
This is the hulking home of Martin Brower Company.
It's a big machine.
Non-stop,
Great shift.
every item a McDonald's needs ships in,
They come from 26 different states.
then quickly out to 440 nearby locations.
365 days a year.
Its frosty back wall is stacked sky high with French fry boxes.
It's a lot of French fries.
2.5 million pounds of them, and they'll all be gone within 72 hours.
On average, our inventory will turn 2 to 3 times a week.
With 220 people on staff, this pounding place is McDonald's logistical heart. Martin Brower's trucks are the Golden Arches arteries.
We'll drive 3 million miles a year.
Every supply route arrives at the McDonald's we know. Even though this is familiar territory for most of us,
This is for the hamburgers and cheeseburgers.
owner-operator Rafael Vasquez has some secrets to share. The new grill, for example, is automated. It simultaneously cooks both sides of the burger. There's no burger flippers anymore. In seconds.
38 cents.
That's it.
That's it.
Some kitchen equipment is internet-enabled and can summon repairmen on its own. The goal? Zero downtime.
That's what we're all about.
We were surprised to learn people.
Open up with about 90.
Other fun fact, where sandwiches are assembled,
Touch this.
is heated to 120 degrees, keeping our bun warm.
Hot to the touch.
McDonald's target is customers inside of a minute.
60 seconds. Yeah, absolutely.
3 pieces? When I gave it a whirl, one. The only thing uglier than my slow speed
Slide. Close.
was my improperly built Big Mac.
What is that?
This is solely my mistake.
That's quiet there.
The good ones come together perfectly, thanks to thousands
Big numbers.
working together.
There's no system better than the McDonald's system.
It's team up close
It can get intense.
and backstage.
A huge system.
People
We have a very crude.
truly deliver
It's fun to do every day.
a happy, very good meal.
Not serving at 290.
Want the world to see it, and we're proud of it.
Chris Gilmore,
Have a good day.
Fox 13 News.
Definitely.
Okay. So this should give us an introduction to the, okay. Now, there were 3 interrelated questions that I prompted, and I wanted you to have a look at. Okay. The first question was, how has competition to McDonald's changed over time? Okay. What did you groups find? What is the answer to question number 1? What did you guys find? What did you guys have? Come on, guys. Find it. How competition changed over. So, at the beginning, when they started off, there were literally just fast food restaurants, right? There were joints, but they were not, in any case, competing in the way that McDonald's is doing. So if we think about, we need to think about what made McDonald's so unique, even early on, at the beginning of the time of the company's succession, right? And I would say there are 2 things very important. One is standardization, and the other one is, and maybe resulting out of the standardization, is consistency. Okay, so standardization of the production and the service processes. Okay, standardization in terms of how they make their burgers. Standardization in terms of the equipment. They all use the same equipment, and that set them apart to the competition, because standardization and consistency led to something very important here, right? And the importance that I'm looking at here is efficiency, right? So McDonald's, in relation to its competitors, has and still is, to some extent, much more efficient than its competitors. The efficiency measured through product inputs versus output. Now, where does this efficiency stem from? This efficiency stems from the integration of the specific steps and activity in the processes, right? Think about making that burger, what we saw in the video, right? Everything is documented, what we saw in the case, everything is written down, everything is translated and to all restaurants across the globe, right? To achieve efficiency, right? So we want to integrate all these, right? And when I talk about the efficiency, we will talk about this much more tomorrow when we think about process performance is generally divided into the efficiency dimension and the effect dimension, right? And we are now talking about the efficiency. And when we talk about efficiency, and cost, because they are very much interrelated, right? Time and cost. Now, McDonald's had this rule, what we also saw in the video. So the 60 seconds rule, right? That whenever the order places in 60 seconds, the cut will be fulfilled, right? Because this brings us to question. Okay, what did your groups identify to be the main operations performance objectives for McDonald's? What did you guys? What would you say? What are the key performance objectives here? What would you say? Your opinion. Come on, you have to think. What are the operations performance objectives for McDonald's? What do you think? Remember yesterday when we started to discuss order winner versus order qualifier, and now looking for order winners. What are objectives for McDonald's? What would you say? What would be an order winner for? What do you think, Sheila? What would be the top? What would be the number? Could argue it's cost, right? Inefficient, right? Cost and sustainability, no more, but I would say quality is on number 2. But when defined quality, defined in terms of excellence, or quality defined in terms of standardization. What type of quality is McDonald's after? Excellence or standardization? What do you guys think? Standardization, exactly. So that's what they are looking for. So we are not looking into a 3-star restaurant. We are looking at the standardization of the quality. Okay. Now I would say here the more points that we have. Now, honestly, did the operations strategy matrix. It's fine. Just let me know whether you've done this or not. Did anybody write to question number 3? Anybody work on question number 3? Yes, no, yes. Just let me know. Did you guys do question number 3? Yes. No. Now, since we have identified the operations performance objectives, these first 2, I would probably also add delivery, dependability. I would probably also add quality of service. All right. Can you do me a favor, guys? Because in the exam, this graphical illustration, which you have. Let me just open the white space folder, which you have here. And can you go, did I not put here in the McDonald's case, this graphical illustration? Yes, it's both the same, right? And can you try to fill it out for McDonald's? Okay, you're supposed to do it yesterday, but maybe now it's easier. Can you take 20 minutes, discuss in your group, and fill out the operations strategy matrix for McDonald's? Okay, well, not 30 minutes, let's say 20 minutes. It won't take you 30 minutes. Just 20 minutes. Everybody knows what to do? Yes? Please do it. I urge you. The will be much easier because then we can discuss this. Okay? Take 20 minutes. Okay? Yes, yes, or yes? Come on, guys. Feedback here. Okay, go ahead. Okay, so I guess you found this exercise to be a little bit more complicated because what we are trying to do here is on one side here, filling in the operational performance objective that we find to be very important, right? And on the other hand, you fill in here the operations strategic decision. So basically about reconciling two things, right? Bringing, so this operation strategy market brings together the market requirements and the operations resources. So we see what we have on one side and what we have on the other side, right? How do we bring this together? So we are looking into what is our operation capable of, what are our capabilities, and what do we need or try to achieve. Very simple, right? And in the case of McDonald's, I would say we are focusing on cost. We are focusing on the quality of the service and the delivery dependability. Traditionally, we were not focused on innovation, changed what we see. And traditionally, we would not put a large range of services in there by that we have, and the menu is limited. So if I pair a McDonald's to a Michelin star, I cannot go to a McDonald's and ask for a medium rare neck or something. Right? Is what you get there. Okay. Have the operational objectives and the importance of it. Then you look at this side here. Okay. And on this side, you add the strategic design decision, the strategic decision, and the development. So design, delivery, and development. Now, if we go to decision, the design decision is about process standardization. Right? We put this in the early. It's about consistency. Okay. Then, if we talk about the delivery dependability, here we need to think about the franchisee system, right? They were talking about a university of McDonald's, where all the people that work and take higher positions at the McDonald's have to go through in order to understand it. Also related to this, are manual for the staff and for the franchisees, right? And then the quality of service is how they track the performance of the staff. And then the strategic decision, delivery decision is, for example, in the quality of service, they now have the terminals, right, where you can place the order. And then the delivery dependability. Here we have to think about it. Does McDonald's produce in push or in pull? What do you guys think? Do they produce in push or pull? What do you guys think? This is a bit more tricky, but what is your opinion on this? Is it push or pull? How do they produce? What do you think, guys? Push. Generally in push, but they have I guess a special version of push, right? Because they constantly update the forecast to see how many people are in the queue in the restaurant, to track not only what kind of products are eaten or consumed during the day on average, but at a specific period of time. So they have a very sophisticated forecasting system. Similar, like a 7-Eleven, they also have a very sophisticated forecasting system, which then enabled us to induce flexibility into their push system, right? So it is demand driven, but capacity led, right? You could call it this way, okay? And then finally, the strategic development decision, we could think about here also to add the manuals that they have for the quality of service. And then in terms of development, think about the use of technology and the new, they gave an example of the oven in the video that can make the burger from both sides to speed up the service, but also the dependability. Okay. Right. Shall we continue with the next topic, or do you want a break before? What do you want? Continue or break? You can choose. No feedback is also a feedback, right? Okay, then let's continue, I suppose. Now, the next topic that we are looking at is looking into operation strategy and process design, but now we go into services, right? Here's a video of a colleague of mine in Zurich that will explain to you something which is called service operation, which is quite interesting. Here, I post the link here. You can check out the video, and I'll also play the video. It's about, I don't know, 7 minutes or so. It's not very long. Take a look. It's quite interesting.
Everyone knows there are differences between services and products, but not everyone knows what the differences are. In this lecture, we will look at service operations. Services are hugely important. Most industrialized countries are now service economies, where the majority of people work in the so-called tertiary sector. It is not unusual that services account for more than 80% of a country's gross domestic product. Note that services are widely different. Being a teacher is not the same as being a pilot, a banker, gardener, chef, consultant, or a prison guard. Although all these jobs sort as services, these jobs are clearly different, but each of them can be broken down to processes and analyzed with the similar improvement methods we use in production management. Traditionally, 4 key characteristics make services different from products. First, intangibility. You cannot hold or touch a service. Well, you can experience. Second, inseparability. Services tend to require simultaneity of production and consumption. For example, it is quite difficult to cut your hair with the hairdresser without being there. Hence, in services, the customer is present in the conversion process. Third, heterogeneity. It is very difficult to make each service experience identical. If you take your friends to a restaurant or a soccer match, your service experience will differ, even though you eat the same food or watch the same game. And fourth, perishability. Services are time restricted, and you cannot store a service. In services, the product is equal to the process. This means that the chances to correct quality problems before delivery are rare. It also has important implications for capacity management and explains why frontline employees can make it or break it for a service company. However, in reality, there is no sharp demarcation between manufacturing and services. And those boundaries that used to be there are more and more blurred by the development of IT. Instead of products versus services, it may be more fruitful to talk about service intensiveness versus manufacturing intensiveness. In practice, there's always a mix of products and services. Hence, we can introduce the product-service continuum. The purest products are arguably commodity raw materials, and among the purest services, we find education. In between, in all kinds of different industries, there's a mix of products and services. Even if you buy your own car, there's a range of related services that you need, such as the sales process, insurance, and repair. Or consider a restaurant, which traditionally is considered a service, but clearly involves the production or assembly of food products. Even the entertainment industry, such as cinema, involves the production of a film. But back to the more general definition of services. Let's first differentiate archetypes of services. We can split between 6 types. Business-to-business services include catering, maintenance, consultancy, and so on. Business-to-consumer services include, for example, restaurants, hairdressers, wellness, bars, and festivals. Internal service, which are service departments within firms such as finance, HR, internal audit. And we have public services such as those provided by the government, police and prisons, public schools and higher education, and even hospitals. Then not-for-profit organizations such as charities, student organizations, and religious organizations. And finally, we have consumer-to-consumer services, which cover all types of services we conduct between friends and family. Now, let's look at the few useful concepts that help us analyze service processes. In manufacturing, CPOC looks like this. But in services, CPOC looks like this. Think about it. If you're sick and visit your doctor, You are the most important input to the process. You're even your own supplier. There are also other inputs, of course, like the doctor and medical equipment. Then, during your visit, you are part of the process. For example, taking a blood sample or answering the doctor's question. And what about the output? Correct, that's you too, and hopefully with a good diagnosis. In many services, the customer is an integrated part of the process. We can therefore say that these services are co-produced by the customer. In other services, the customer is more of a passive receiver. An example here can be cleaning services in a hotel. One useful concept is the differentiation between back office and front office service operations. There's a line of visibility which separates the parts of the process that require customer presence and those that do not. Note that we are more flexible in organizing things as we please in the back office. Often these processes can be more standardized and streamlined. The front office operations are essential for the customer service experience and must therefore be carefully planned and maintained. I am sure you have experienced both exceptionally good and terribly bad front office operations. When we analyze service processes, we can always ask if we can move activities from or to the front office and what effects that will have on the costs and service outcomes. Let's take this lecture as an example. The service process happens right now as you watch the video. Your experience depends on a range of factors: the quality of the sound and picture, the complexity of the content, my performance, your mood, your familiarity with the topic, where you see it, but I'm not there with you physically. This is front office, where you interact with technology. There were, of course, also a lot of back office processes taking place before the video was produced, including writing a script, planning and recording the video. When we meet for questions and answers, it will be front office again. And when I start preparing exam questions based on this material, it will be back office. I can only hope that the outcome of this lecture is that you learn something about service processes that you didn't know before. To recap, we first presented how services differ from products and introduced the product-service complement. We then separated different types of services before we discussed how the customer is often an integrated part of inputs, the process, and even the output in service processes. And finally, we introduced the useful concept of front office versus back office processes. Excuse me,
Okay, so that was a nice introduction done by Torbjörn, a colleague of mine, on services. Okay, so we are in an environment of service operations now. Now, remember our very, very first class that we had, where we discussed the differences between manufacturing versus services. Okay. Many of the offerings that we consume are a mixture of services and operations. Okay. Very important, what Torbjörn said here earlier is that in service processes, the input are we, right? The consumer. We are part of the service process, okay? And that's what makes it very much different to manufacturing, okay? Because we are part of the process, right? We are not looking into input resources. We do to some extent, but we are the ones who enter the system, right? And when we talked about standardization of manufacturing processes earlier, standardization of service processes are much more complicated and difficult, right? Because each of us will experience the service differently, and each of us may behave differently in the service process. Okay, now imagine any one of you has been to a Starbucks, right? Have you guys been to a Starbucks and ordered a coffee? Yes, I suppose, right? Now, think about what you observe in the people that are in line. Okay, you see difference in behavior in how they order the coffee, right? Some may take 15 seconds to place the order. Some may take 5 minutes to place the order, right? All this brings variability in the process. Now, when the variability in time enters the process, it's much more difficult to calculate the resources that you need in order to meet customer demand, right? It becomes much more difficult. Right? We're trying to reduce this variability, but we have to manage the variability, right? The statistical fluctuation in the behavior, how long a process will take. Okay. And this is the difficulty that we have in service operations. Okay. On one hand, it is difficult to standardize the process so that we have reduced the variability, that we know how many resources we need. But on the other hand, it's also very difficult to measure the performance of a service process, because for each of us, we will experience it differently. Let's say, if you go to a restaurant tonight with your friend, you might enjoy the restaurant, your friend might not enjoy the restaurant for whatever reason. The person might be in a bad mood, is not hungry, or rather want to be somewhere else, right? So then but your friend might say, I didn't really enjoy going there, I wasn't hungry, so I give it a 4 out of 10. Now, how do you rate this performance, right? Whenever we have service operations, we have to deal with variability and subjectivity, right? And we try to generalize, right? And how do we do that? Through profiling the customers, right? Now, the principle of designing processes, is similar in a service environment than in a manufacturing environment. So what we said in the video, there's a difference between back office processes or services and front office processes or services, right? So front office means that the customer is directly exposed and part of the service, okay? Back office means it's the preparation, for example, of the plate and then the delivery of the plate of food in the restaurant, okay? And there might be reasons to place certain activities versus in the front office. Generally, we try to become more efficient, and if it doesn't affect the service experience, I might put activities in the back office. I thought I needed to sneeze, but I didn't. Okay, and these are the differences. So, what are we going to discuss? So, I'll introduce this, and then we'll have our well-deserved break. Okay, we're looking into designing and developing a service strategy, the role of operations and services, and what are success factors for service businesses. Everything we discuss here is about what we call visibility. You guys remember the 4 V's we discussed: volume, variety, variation in demand, and visibility. So in a service process, the visibility is high because the customer is part of the service, especially when we are in front office processes. Visibility and variation or variety we have there, okay? This is what we're going to discuss. So let's have our meeting now before we introduce the topic, and we can take 25 minutes break. So now it's 5 p.m. Hong Kong time. Is that right? Tell me if I did this right, then I know. Is it 5 p.m. Hong Kong time? Yes? Okay, then let's meet back at 5:25 to introduce the next topic. Okay, let's have a coffee break now, tea break, whatever you wish, and then we come back. Thank you very much, guys. Okay, shall we continue? For the second half of the class. Okay, so we are in the process of entering a new topic, which is kind of similar to what we've done in our last topic, which was about the design of processes focused on manufacturing processes. And now we are looking at the design of service processes. Okay. We discussed that in service processes, the customer plays a much more integral and prominent role in the process itself, in a good way, and in a more in a way that complicates our efficiency goals here, because customers behave differently, customers experience service differently, so it's much more difficult to control, I would say. Okay. So firstly, we'll discuss something which is called the service concept. And the service concept is the shared understanding of the nature that the service provides and receives, okay, which includes the organizing idea, the service experience, and then the service outcome. So what we are trying to deliver here, okay? And we first look at an example of a theme park, which is in the UK, which is a famous one there, which is called Alton Towers Resort. So it's a theme park, what you have in Hong Kong, Disney World, right? But much smaller. So the service concept is a UK theme park that provides an inclusive package of over 100 rides and attractions to suit all ages and tastes. So it's for families, right? For a young and old one, with thrills, fun, fantasy, fast food, and a magnificent garden, okay? Then there is the service experience, right? This is, in a way, a description of the service processes, right? So how we design our service processes and how it then translates to being experienced by the customer, okay? Signages of the park, the car parks that we need, quick and easy to buy tickets, clear site maps, different queuing system, plenty of attraction, exhilarating and entertaining attractions for all ages, lots of walking between rides, range of food outlets, queues for some rides, and there are souvenir shops, okay? Now, if we think about inventory, right? And inventory and services, there's this inventory for what we manufacture. So at the Mcdonald's, there's inventory of the buns, of the meat, of the milkshakes, whatever it is. But when we specifically just look at the service process, we have two main types of inventory that we are dealing with, right? One is the customer, so people. And on the other hand, it's the information. So these are the two types of inventory that we have. And if you think about the customer entering a service experience, right? It goes through stages, no? And when we think about it, we also need to think about queues, how we manage queues. And then there's the service outcomes, which are here divided by benefits, emotions, and value. The benefits is you have a full day there, you never get bored, it's a great day out, lots of ride, great experience, right? And the emotions that the customer will feel are fun, thrilling, exhausting. Now compare this to a manufacturing process. In manufacturing process, you would measure scrappage rate, throughput time, cycle time, but not here, right? So here we have some of the soft side, which are the emotion. And the value that we are providing are high all-inclusive price, car park extra, few additional costs, food prices are reasonable and good value for money. Okay, I have a video here of this Alton Tower experience so that you get an idea of what it is, because you might not be familiar with it coming from Hong Kong. Okay. They have something new, which is called the roller coaster restaurant.
A brand new roller coaster restaurant at the Alton Terrace Resort. The restaurant offers you a unique dining experience set below a vast roller coaster track. The restaurant is located in the Forbidden Valley next to the brand new Galactica ride at the Alton Terrace Resort. On arrival at the restaurant, you'll be greeted by one of our fantastic hosts. They will talk you through the full interactive experience. You order via a brand new tablet, which gives you access to a premium menu. Then you will be able to watch as your food loops its way down our tracks direct to your table.
Hello, my name is Dan Wilbraham and I am the Executive Head Chef here at the Alton Terrace Resort. So our menu has been specially designed for fans and is the most premium by far. So there is a rigorous process to the assembly, so it's a little bit more detailed than perhaps in a normal restaurant. First, we cook the food, and then there's a process where it needs to go into the stainless steel pot, into the dispatch area, and then we'll down our track.
The restaurant is open to all theme park guests. During the night time, the restaurant is open to local residents, general public, and to hotel guests at the resort. The restaurant is fantastic for celebrations and corporate hire. This can be done by the restaurant or via the Alton Towers website.
Idea of what we are talking about. So if we think about then the theme park, the Alton Towers, think about all the different operations that are within that theme park, from restaurants to rides and whatever there may be. And again, it's a mixture of manufacturing and service processes. Okay. Another example is you might be familiar with Southwest Airlines. It's a U.S. airline, which was one of the first low-cost airlines in the world. Okay, and the service concept there is having low-fare airline with outstanding, passionate, caring customer service. Right? And the service experience, you can Google it. It's quite interesting. Different, or how Southwest Airline tries to differentiate itself from other airlines, right? Although you have to pay for everything extra, right? In any other low-cost airline, you will have a very different service experience because of the staff, which make much of difference here. Okay. There is convenient airport location and first come, first served in the check-in. Okay, service outcome is to run a low-cost airline, it relies on efficiency and efficient boarding. So you want the plane to be on the ground as less minutes as possible. You want it to be in the air in order to generate revenue, right? The key word in running a low-cost airline is utilization of the plane, right? And then the emotions are fun, pleasure to fly, taking the pain out of flight. Okay, value is value for money. There are no extra charges for bag and no extra charges for booking changes. In that respect, it differs from many other low-cost airlines. Okay. So here you see a very famous quote from Sir Colin Marshall, who is the former chairman of British Airways. Okay. There are different ways to think about how to compete in a service business. One is to think that a business is merely performing as a function. So in our case, the function would be transforming or transporting people from A to B on time in the lowest possible price. So that would be a commodity mindset, thinking of an airline as the bus of the skies. Another way to compete is to go beyond the function and compete on the basis of providing an experience. So we call this the service experience, right? So making the process of flying from A to B as effortless, as pleasant as possible. So anyone can fly planes, but few organizations can excel in servicing people. So that's what we are doing or trying to achieve in service operations, right? So if we talk about service operations, we also need to talk about, again, sorry to refer back to this, operational objectives, right? I know we've discussed this earlier, but think about how the company wants to compete. And we said again and again in the previous classes, depending on how you want to compete, you design your processes. And the same with service operation, depending on how you want to compete, you design your service experience. It's the same, right? But it's in services, and be aware that the customer is part of this, right? So we have the organization and we have the customer. At the organizational level, we have the competitive capabilities. At the customer side, we have the different types of customers and their needs. So in the middle is then the service concept, right? Now, I hope you recall this from the last class. So we have the volume and variety. So now we're not looking into manufacturing processes. Now we are looking into service processes. Right? And we have three different types of service processes. There are professional services, service shops, and mass services. Okay, think about, as an example, about financial institutions. Think about a bank, okay? Now think about all the services that this bank provides. What would be a mass service of a bank where you have high volume, low variety? What do you think? Give me an example. What could be a mass service? What do you think, guys? What could be a mass service? For example, think about the ATM machine, right, where you can withdraw money. Or think about credit card statements, right? These are all mass services. Now, on the opposite side here, we have professional services, where we have a high variety and a low volume. That could be, for example, private wealth consulting, or think about merger and acquisition services, right? And then in the middle, we have service shops, something in between, right? Think about, I don't know, mortgage services, which are somewhat in the middle, customized, somewhat standardized, right? So these are the differences. Now think about how they are designed, these processes. So if I have a high volume, low variety, it's very much standardized. And I try to automate in order to reduce the cost. And I try to find consistency in the project. In professional services, while I try to do that as well, I'm much more focused on customization, right? The customization of the service experience. Now you could also then look into McDonald's as a restaurant, which is a mass service, right? So we try to automate, have high volumes of customer, low variety of product offerings that we have, right? And then maybe if we look into different types of restaurant, if I look into the high-end Michelin star restaurant, there would probably be more of a service shop where I have medium volume, medium variety, right? Here you see some examples that we have here. So professional services are like consultancies, right? People-based rather than equipment-based, high level of client contacts. The client spends considerable time in the service process, high levels of customization. Staff are given high levels of discretion in servicing the customer, okay? Then we have some things called the service shop, where you have relatively medium level of volume, medium or mixed level of customer contact, medium or mixed level of customization, medium or mixed level of staff discretion. And then the mass services. Remember, I gave as an example, the ATM machine or credit card statement. High levels of volumes, low or mixed levels of customization, low or mixed levels of staff discretion. That means the service process itself is very much standardized, right? So think about what happens when you order the coffee, receiving the coffee. At Starbucks, we try to standardize the process as much as possible, right? So in the end, you are at the same, I suppose, graphical matrix as we have seen in manufacturing processes, but now for service operations, right? So we have professional services, service shops, and the mass services. And here is a natural line of fit, depending on the volume variety characteristics, choosing the specific service operations process type, okay? Now, I just introduced this and then I'll go to the case where we're going to work with. Now, in service operation, I need to think about how to deal with right, and the variability is induced through the customer, right? Generally, variability works against efficiency. And there are reasons to accommodate variability and refuse to accommodate variability. And then there is a certain we manage think about the first here. The first is arrival variability, right? Meaning that at some point I have 100 customers, at the other point I only have 5 customers, right? Now think about, you want to go to a doctor, right? You have any health concern and you want to visit a doctor. How does a doctor manage arrival variability? What do you guys think? How does a doctor manage arrival variability as a service process? What do you think? Simple question. You all know how it works. How does a doctor manage arrival variability? I promise it's my last question for today. I will continue tomorrow. I know you're sleepy. How does a doctor manage variability? What do you guys think? So the variability that customers or patients arrive. How does a doctor manage that? Come on, guys. How does a doctor manage arrival variability? Well, very simple, right? If you don't want to talk to me, then I'll let you know. Through appointments, right? So you have to make an appointment. So it basically tries to even out the demand throughout the day. So it has appointment and leaves buffers in between. So that's one way to deal with arrival variability. I'll stop this now, okay? I'll continue with this tomorrow. Oh, yeah, tough day, huh? Can you go, oops. Can you go into your Brightspace learning material site? And then there is an assignment day 3. Can you all see this? Yes, no, at least a little bit of feedback. Come on, guys. Can you see this? The case study is called Design House Partnership at Concept Design Services. Should be at the very end of the learning material. You guys found this? Xing Lam found it, the other ones? Did you locate that as well, or you have question? Yes? Okay. Okay, this is a relatively short case. It's just 3 pages, okay? Could you please do me the favor and at least, right, I know you sleep, okay, but at least read the case and then consider these 3 questions. Why is operations management important for this company, CDS? And then remember what we've done in the first class, or no, it was the second class, sorry. Draw a 4V's profile of the company's products and services. Final question, what would you recommend the company if they were asked you to advise them in improving their operation? Okay. So, can you take the last hour to work on design house partnerships at concept design services? Okay? Is that okay? And once you're done, you read this and considered the questions, you can take a break from operations management. Is that okay? Does that sound all right? Okay? Cool. Then I thank you very much for today. I hope you enjoyed it and found it interesting and learned something. I enjoyed very much teaching you today, and I am really looking forward to see you guys then tomorrow, a bit fresher, right? Okay. Thank you very much, guys, and you guys have a evening. I see you tomorrow. Okay. Thank you.